Join us on this 5 miles kayak from Caswell Bay to Mumbles on the 20th of April 2024. Watch on to learn about the magnificent scenery of the Gower Peninsula, the awesome beaches on this route including Caswell Bay, Langland Bay and Bracelet Bay, the famous pier and lighthouse at Mumbles, and important safety information about the strong tidal currents around Mumbles Head. This 5 miles paddle took us from Caswell Bay on the South Gower coast to Mumbles on Swansea Bay. We launched from Caswell Bay at 2 p.m. and headed eastwards past towering cliffs. After paddling across Langland Bay and a lunch break at Rotherslade, we continued east past Limeslade Bay and Bracelet Bay. We rounded the iconic Mumbles Head with its famous lighthouse and pier before landing at Nab Rock at Mumbles at 5 p.m. We've parked up at Caswell Bay and we're walking down to the water's edge. Here come Archie and Ethan. Di's gone on ahead of us. I think he wants to get a head start. It's just gone 2 p.m. and we've set off from Caswell Bay finally. We're going to paddle about 5 miles to the east and finish up at Mumbles just before high tide. Looking back to the west in the distance there you can see Pulthy Head, which apparently is the highest headland on the Gower. Di was using his trusty old Pro Aqua kayak, which is a compact inflatable kayak made from traditional construction of low pressure floor and tubular side pontoons. The Langland Bay Manor is by far the most dominant building on Langland Bay, being originally built in the 19th century in the Scottish baronial style by the Crochet family of ironmasters. Langland Bay is a safe and sandy beach which stretches across the Rotherslade Bay, although the two are separated at high tide. Attractive beach huts fringe Langland Bay, very much giving it the air of a well-to-do seaside resort. The Langland Brasserie has a great setting overlooking the beach. The kayak crew do like their waterside pubs and restaurants. This 5 miles kayak was part of our undertaking to paddle every section of the 870 miles of the Wales coast. The inset map shows in red the sections we'd already paddled, up to us doing this Gower kayak in April 2024. Ethan was using an Aqua Spirit kayak, which is a hybrid inflatable with a high pressure drop stitch floor chamber which sits between two lower pressure side pontoons. We headed into the small bay of Rotherslade on the east end of Langland Bay for a much anticipated lunch break, which as usual also involved us drinking our ration of cider. We've stopped at Rotherslade for the favourite part of our trip, which is the lunch and cider stop. We're feeling re-energised and invigorated after our lunch stop at Rotherslade. We're about halfway along the route, so we're going to set off again now towards Mumbles. As you can see, while we were stopped at Rotherslade for our lunch break, it looks like the sea conditions have taken a bit of a turn for the worse. The sea has definitely got a lot rougher. We did check the sea swell forecast using surfforecast.com before we set off, of course, which did say the wind was going to pick up a little bit. The sea is getting even rougher as we paddle past Limeslade Bay. The guys can't complain too much though, because at least we've got the westerly wind and the incoming tide with us, helping us along. That big building up on the left there above Ethan is apparently a former Coast Guard station on Tut Hill, which is between Bracelet Bay and Limeslade Bay. This drone footage shows our route as we pass Limeslade and Bracelet Bays, rounded Mumbles Head and swung in towards Mumbles on Swansea Bay. You can see the lighthouse and Mumbles Head ahead of us. We should be rounding Mumbles Head about half an hour before high tide, so that it should be fairly slack water then. On the left over there you've got Bracelet Bay, which has got a nice Italian restaurant called Castellamare overlooking it. Di wanted to bottle it and go through one of the gaps in Mumbles Head, but we're going to stick to the plan and go around the outside. There's Di in front of the famous Mumbles lighthouse. You can also see some of the emplacements that were built here back in the Second World War. We're just rounding Mumbles Head, which can be quite turbulent when the tide is running here, but it's near to high tide, so it's okay now. Medieval accounts suggest that the shoreline from Mumbles used to lie 3 to 5 miles out to sea. These low-lying lands were known as the Green Crowns, and it's believed that they were submerged when a storm surge or mini-tsunami engulfed many places along the Bristol Channel in 1607, so Mumbles may have its very own version of Atlantis. Archie and I were using a tandem version of the Sandbanks Optimal, which is a full drop stitch kayak, which inflates to about 10 to 12 psi and hence looks and behaves very similar to a hard shell. We have done a review of the Sandbanks Optimal kayak in the product reviews playlist of our YouTube channel and also on our website, which is linked below. The word mumbles is thought to have derived from the French mamelles, meaning breasts, and refers to what the Norman French sailors named these twin islets off Mumbles Head. In 1793, the Mumbles lighthouse was erected on the outer of the two tidal islands off Mumbles Head, after many a dreadful shipwreck. The waters on the west side of the headland can be very turbulent at times due to the tidal race, and we'd suggest only paddling Mumbles Head within an hour or so either side of high tide. Mumbles Pier opened in 1898 as a Victorian pleasure pier. It houses the Mumbles Coast Guard Station. Fortunately, we have not yet had to call upon their services during our paddles along Swansea Bay and the Gower. We're just paddling under Mumbles Pier. You can see the lifeboat moored over there in the distance. As usual, the sea is a lot calmer on the east side of Mumbles Head than it is on the west. As you can see from this drone footage taken on a later date, when the tide is out in Swansea Bay, it goes out a heck of a long way, so it's best to land or launch on the bay within 2 to 3 hours of high tide if possible. Ethan and Di have landed ahead of us at Nabrock, and in the distance behind them you can see the remains of Oystermouth Castle, which is well worth a visit if you're in this area. If you enjoyed the video, then please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing by clicking on the left below. Click on the right below to be taken to the playlist of videos of our other trips around the Wales coast. Don't forget to check out our website, which is linked below. Happy paddling from the kayak crew.